Okay, so what we're going to look at now is how to put different kinds of text and other type of data into your slides, and also how to edit it, how to get it in there more quickly, some efficient ways of doing that. So we got a number of things that we're going to be covering here. So first of all, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start a brand new presentation. So we'll go ahead and start up the program. I can't help but be drawn towards the Berlin. Okay, so we're going to go with that one. Okay, and this time around though, I think we're going to go with a green. All right, we'll start out with green, and we'll go ahead and hit create, and there we go. Now, of course, we're getting the design ideas, and what this is are other themes that we can apply to this. So this one's using, I guess, what we would call would be the Berlin theme, of the Berlin kind of personality of the whole thing. So that gives us our font and our coloring, our graphics. It's pretty much everything that has to do with the looks of the presentation. That's what the theme is all about. So it's giving you a chance of maybe changing your mind and maybe going with something a little bit different here with the design ideas. I'm going to go ahead and just close that up because I'm pretty much stuck with wanting to do this one. Now I can, change my mind and go with a completely different theme anytime I want, and I'm already thinking with the green, maybe I didn't make the right choice there. So what I'm going to do is go back over here to the design tab, all right, and this is the theme that we're currently using. So it's one of the system themes, one of the personalities. And remember how when I went to pick the green, I had other choices? Well, here are those variants, those different variations of it. So this is what purple is going to do for us. We've got the blue, all right. We got the, back to the red, blue. So what do? Blue, green, purple. I just don't know. I think we're just going to stick with the green and be done with it. Close up this design ideas here. Now, before we move on, I want to just kind of show you an optional approach to putting together your presentation, and that would be if you have in mind all the slides that you're going to be wanting to put in. Let's say, in other words, each slide is going to have a different subject or a different theme, as far as text goes, to it. And in your mind, what you want to maybe start out with is more like an outline. So in that outline, each of the items would be, let's just say, the title of a slide. So if you have those titles in mind, what you can do is get those in real fast without having to do a lot of extra work, and then kind of go back to them, and then you can kind of fill in the details. All right. So let's just say that I have about maybe 12 total slides that I want to put together. And I pretty much know the names that I want to put, or the information I want to put as far as the title goes, right? So here's what we do. We go down below here, and we have our different views of our presentation. Now, if we click onto the normal view one time, and then one time more, okay, what happens is it takes us into the outline mode. Now, if you're not comfortable by doing it that way, what you can also do is just go over here into the view, all right, and then tell it that you want to go into outline view. And there we go. So what ends up happening is it'll show, as far as an outline here, void of any graphics or color. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to put or click our mouse and get our cursor at this point right here. So where we're at right there is pretty much us being here, okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in the title, and we're going to put in something like maybe Lahaina, surf, can't even type here, surf and kite, something like that, all right? We can change it later on if we want to, all right? Now, hit the enter key, okay, and we get a second section here, or a second, slide in essence. And it defaults to our title and content, all right, which is fine. So right where we're at here, okay, I'm going to go and type in something like maybe mission statement. So this is going to be kind of a business plan kind of thing. So maybe even what I'll do here, let me just go back to the first slide here. And what I can do is I can actually just go down into this spot right here, click down here, and I can put in our, maybe something like maybe the 2025 business plan, something like that, all right? Okay, and you'll see that over there. So now, back to the second slide. So we got the mission statement in there. I'm not going to worry about putting anything in here yet. I want to just go ahead and hit the enter key again, though, all right? And that gives me a third slide, see? So now the third slide, this is going to be the team, let's say, all right? Enter it again, and then we're going to do something like a market summary, enter, and then opportunities, and then we'll do something like maybe a business concept. Okay, and then we'll get maybe competition, goals and objectives. So remember, this stuff is just kind of flying out of our heads, right? Okay, so next one's going to be the financial plan. Resource assignments, something like that. I'm going to have to put resource requirements here. Just double click that. All right, so we got that, and then the next one's going to be risks and rewards. All right. And I think one last one we'll do maybe key issues, something like that. Okay, so now at this point we have about 12 slides, including the title slide. If we click on each one of these, you can actually see that information we have here showing up in the title, okay? So now if you want to go a little bit further with this, I'm not going to do this too much here because I want to work more in this area here, but I just wanted to kind of show you how convenient this whole outline view is. I think it's a great alternative, especially if you don't want to be kind of distracted by the graphics and the color and all that. You can kind of pretty much do most of your work in the outline, see? So I'll give you an example here now. For the mission statement, that's going to be the second slide here, okay? We need to put in, let's say, some text, okay? Bulleted text, and we're going to put in, just a few lines of text. Now we don't have to put anything real in here. I'm just going to type in some blah blah garbage, just to kind of save some time. And what we'll do here, though, is on this mission statement, normally if I go to the end of it, all right, and I go ahead and hit the enter key, it's going to give me a new slide, see? And that's what you see over on the right hand side, over here now, see? Now I'm going to go ahead and hit my backspace and get rid of that. Now I'm back to what I had before. So in order to get it so where it knows that I want to put now the bullets for this second slide, this mission statement, what I do is I hold down my control key and hit the enter key. Now when I do that, we get that in there, see? So now as I type, there's my first one and second one and so forth. Now for the mission statement, that's just pretty much just a paragraph of text. You don't want to be too long with it. You want to make sure that you're pretty concise with it, because of course you're presenting this, on the screen or what have you. People are looking at it. You don't need to, bore them with paragraph after paragraph of information, but you want to be very short and very concise with this. So you can type in, something like this. Don't you love this text? I just keep on going like that. And you can kind of see it obviously appearing over on the right-hand side there. Okay, so there's our mission statement. All right. Now, next thing. We go down to the next one, which is on the team. Now, when we go to there, we have now, this is going to be kind of like a content, a title and content type layout. Remember, this is, if we click up here on the layout here, you can see how it's on the title and content. See? Okay. Okay, so now for the team, I'll go to there. You'll see how now we've got the title and content on this one. So I'm going to go right to here. click right at the end of team. Now watch, when I do my control enter this time, now you're going to see like a little bullet kind of show up there. See, and you can see it, we have it over there as well. All right. And on this one, I can type in, you know, who's on our team. Well, we've got, you know, so-and-so on our team. We have so-and-so on our team. And all I'm doing here is I'm just typing, hitting the enter key, and kind of going from there. So if all your presentation is going to be is basically a title and just a number of different bullets, and that's all you're going to do, that's the extent of it, then working completely from this angle, from the outline mode, I think is your best way. The other nice thing about being in the outline mode is that I get to see all that I've done so far on here. See, I can read it very easily. I can kind of read what I did back here and so forth. If I'm just working in this type of situation without the outline, then I'm pretty much having to maybe go back to the previous slide or try to read the thumbnail that usually would show up here. I might not be able to read exactly what the text is. So just this is more convenient. So I'll just do one more here. I'll go here to the market summary. Again, I'll do the control enter, right? Go ahead and type in my first one. Here's my summary on this one. Then I can go ahead with this one here and go ahead with this one here. And there we go. All right, so that's pretty straightforward. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the normal view. So I'm just going to go and click on to my normal view button down there at the bottom. It returns me back to here. And then of course I can scroll through and look at my slides that way. All right. So now I'm going to go on slide number 5. And I want to put in some text, but I'm not going to do it using the outline, but rather directly on here. And I want to show you, I guess along the way, how to work the bulleting, because the bulleting is probably going to be a major part of your presentation text here. So first of all, obviously it says click to add text, so I guess I'll click there, right? Now go ahead and I type in my first line there, something like that. That's great. And then I go ahead and hit the enter key. Obviously it gives me another bullet, and I can then go ahead and type in my next line. All right. And you can see how the first letter is capitalized as you're doing this. A lot of people will type title case. In other words, they'll put the first letter of each word in caps or uppercase. And you know, I think the jury's out on that, whether or not that looks good or not. I think overall, I think just having it where it looks like a sentence without the period, and that's another thing too. Do you put a period after each one of these? I don't know. Again, are these really sentences or are they just kind of statements? But you know, that's up to you if you want to put periods at the end. But if anything, capitalize that first letter. Okay. But you know, again, if you think it might look better the other way, go ahead and do that too. Okay, so that's your second line there. And then of course, we go to the end of this. Now, if you wanted to put something in between the two here, probably the easiest way to do that would be to go to the end of this line, hit the enter key, pushes everything down, you get a bullet, and then you can go ahead and type in that line as well. Now, before we go any further, I want to talk a little bit about editing your text. Okay, I think probably most of you out there know how to do most of these things, but I'm just going to kind of cover them real quick, and hopefully, if anything, it'll fill in some gaps of stuff that you might not know. Now, let's say, for instance, this word right here, not much of a word. Let's say that you want to get rid of that. You want to delete that, okay? Now, one way of doing it would be that you can click at the very end of it and just hit your backspace key on your keyboard, just like that, and maybe get rid of the space as well. The other way to do it would be to go to the beginning of the word, let's say this one right here, and hit the delete key a few times until you get rid of it like that. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Now, to turbocharge those two keys, you can do this. If you go, let's say, to the beginning of this word right here, and you do a control, you hold on your control key and hit the delete key, it wipes that whole word out. On the other hand, let's say you're over here, let's say you're on the left side of that word there, you can do a control backspace key, and you've turbocharged it as well. So you control backspace again, you wipe it out like that. That's pretty cool. That's, you know, having tools like that kind of makes it a little bit easier to kind of go with the flow. You're not doing every little thing. You're doing things more efficiently, and thus a lot less maybe stress and fatigue, you know, in the long run. Who knows? But it's good to know how to do those things. Now, of course, keep in mind, anytime that you delete anything, you can go ahead and hit the undo up here as many times as you want to bring back as much as you want. That's pretty effective there. So let's just say that you want to get rid of, let's say, this line here. Totally, what you can do is just go to the very beginning of it like that. Now, this is a little bit more, I guess, involved, but not too much. What you can do is you go to the beginning, or go to the end of it here like this, right? You can do a shift and then hit your home key. The home key, normally when you hit the home key, it goes back to the beginning like this, all right? Hit the end key, it goes to the end. But if I hold down the shift key while I'm hitting the home key, it highlights all the way back. And then what I can do then is I can just hit my backspace one time. It wipes out that whole text along with the bullet and pulls everything up. So let me just show you another thing here real quick here. Let me just, so I got that, and I've got that. So if I'm over here, at the end of it, shift, home, and then backspace. How about that, right? Or if I'm at the beginning of it, I can do a shift, end, that goes to the end, hit my backspace, and I've wiped it out like that as well. And not to forget the control backspace and control delete. So if I'm at the end here, I can also just hit control, hold on the control key, backspace, backspace, backspace. Or if I'm at the beginning, like this, I can do a control, delete, delete, delete. So that gives you a little bit more control over not doing the whole line, let's say. Now I'm going to go to a different slide. I'm going to go to this one right here. A little bit more text in there. Now, we've been kind of talking a little bit destructive there, but let's just say that we've got another set of keys that are used to select our text, because we want to select text because we want to do something with it. So let's just say that we're over here on this word right here. If I just do a double click on the word, I select the word. If I do a triple click, I do the whole sentence, or it's not really a sentence, it would be basically a paragraph. So the triple click kind of works the same way as it does in Word, but triple click does the whole sentence or paragraph, double click does the word. And then once you've done that, as you saw earlier, you can delete, you can backspace, or, and you're going to see this a little bit later on, you can apply all kinds of formatting to that, you know, change the font and just all kinds of variations, colors, whatever you want to do. But knowing how to select, that's a good thing. Now, the other thing is that if you want to just use your mouse, you can actually just kind of point at the beginning here and just hold on your mouse and just kind of drag it like that, and it will select whatever you drag over, and then you can do whatever you need to do. All right. If you're having a bad mouse day, let's say, what you can do is you can click at the beginning of something like this, all right? And what you can do then is hold down your shift key, all right, and hit the right arrow key, and that will highlight one word at a time, okay? If you, I'll go down to here, if you do a shift control, now just give me an idea here. If I do a control right arrow key, it jumps one word at a time. That's control arrow, right? So if I hold down my shift key while I'm doing that, so I'm going to go back to here again. If I do a control shift, and then I do a right arrow, right arrow, right arrow, I'm doing one word at a time, and I can again delete it or make whatever change I want to it. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about is just inserting special characters, okay? You might have names that have foreign characters in them, or maybe you want to put like a copyright symbol or a trademark symbol, things like that after whatever you've typed. So let's just say I'm on it, I'll go to a new line here. So I'll go to here. And what I like to do at this point is, let's say I'm going to type in amalgamated surfing, okay, something like that. And what I want to do is, let's just say that's a company name, and I want to put a registered trademark on there. That's the thing with the letter R with a circle in it. So what I can do now is a few different things. I think probably the easiest way would be if I were to hit my left parenthesis, okay, hit the letter R, and my right parenthesis, I get the registered trademark, okay? On the other hand, let me just backspace out of that. Another one would be a left parenthesis, the letter C, and a right parenthesis, I get my copyright symbol. And of course, last but not least, you've got the TM for the trademark. Put that in there, and there's your trademark symbol. That's pretty cool. Now, so I'll just put the R in there for now. Okay. Now, another one we can do is, let's say we've got somebody by the name of Jose, let's say Jose Doremus, okay? So I'm going to type in, let's say Jose. Now, I don't want to just put like an E and an apostrophe. I mean, you could probably get away with it, but that looks more like a possessive than it does an accented E. So what you can do is you type in JOS, right? Then we go over here into the Insert tab. Over towards the right here, we have symbols. We can click onto that. And then, then go over here to symbol, right? And we get this whole sheet here. We got quite a few of them here. Now, this is taking us to wingdings just for the heck of it. What we can do is we can click on that little drop-down arrow. We're going to go to a different font. At the very beginning, we have something called normal text. We can click onto that, and this is the text that you'd find on keyboards, right? But as we go further and further down, you'll see we've got, again, our accented E's here that we can use. So we're going to click onto that, hit Insert, and there's Jose. I think that's right. If not, we can do the other. I think it's the other one, now that I think about it. So we'll do that one there, do an Insert. Okay, and I'll just close that up, and I'll go into here, and I will backspace that one out, and there's Jose. So we can do Jose Doremus. Okay, so there we go. So that's pretty cool. Okay, now I want to just backtrack just a little bit and talk a little bit more about the bullets. As I said before, I think bullets are probably one of your more popular things that would be in most of your presentations. One thing you want to keep in mind is you don't want to put too much in there. I think the rule of thumb is not to have more than, let's say, 8 or 9 lines. If you have more than that, it's better to maybe kind of split up maybe into a couple different slides and kind of go from there. But aside from that, let me just go to a brand new slide here. Go to number 6 here. We'll go to here. And let's just say I put in my first whatever, enter key, second one in here, okay? And now what I'd like to do is make this third line actually a sub of the previous one. Okay, now there's a couple ways you can do this. One way would be off the ribbon, the other way would be via the keyboard. So if I go to home here, you'll see in the paragraph area here, we've got this button here they call increase list level, aka indent, okay, with any other program. If you point to that and you click it, it will then bring you in a level, see? And then I can go ahead and type in that, hit the enter key, do it again, and so forth. Now, hit the enter key again, okay, and now I decide I want to go in another level. So now here's another way of going in a level, all right, and that would be on your keyboard, you hit the tab key. Hit that tab key one time, there we go, and there's our next level. There's our next one as well. Pretty good. Now, hit the enter key again, and now I want to go back a level. Now, one way of doing that would be back on your home tab. You've got this button right here, which they call decrease list level, or basically decrease your indent, right? So we click on that one time, that brings you back. Voila, there we go. And now I hit the enter key again, and I say, now I want this one to go back to the beginning. So instead of using the increase or the decrease indent there, we can hold down our shift key and hit the tab key, and that goes back to the beginning, or back a level, I should say, and there we go. Okay, now another thought, when it comes to outlining, or using the bullets here, I'm going to go to slide number 7 here, brand new slide here. Oop, jumped too far there. Okay. I'm going to click or type in my first bullet. of information, something like that, right? I should be careful, it might spell something. Anyway, now we go ahead and hit the enter key, and what does that do? That gives us a new bullet. What I would rather do is have it give me the next line, but where it lines up with the previous line, but gives me no bullet, all right? And that just gives you kind of special effects. So instead of just always having like bullet, sub-bullets, and so forth, in other words, having it where you would have, you know, maybe da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Instead of doing that, here's what we can do instead. Let's backspace it out. So here's what we do. At the very end of this one here, instead of hitting the enter key and getting a bullet, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to hold down the shift key and I'm going to hit the enter key. Now what that does, it gives me a soft return. In essence, it prematurely goes to the next line, as if, let me just show you here, as if I were maybe typing and typing and typing, and it just goes to the next line, and then it goes to the next line, and so forth. So there, it's doing its natural, what we would also refer to as word wrapping, right? So in this case, I can just hold down my shift key, hit the enter key, put this in, all right? Shift key, hit the enter key, put this one in, shift key, and enter key, and then my third one. Now, when I'm ready to do the next regular bullet, I just hit my enter key all by itself. It gives me a new bullet, and then I can go and type this one in first. Enter, oh, not enter, oh, I made a mistake there. Shift, enter, right? And now it gives me the second one, see? So it just gives you, did it again there. It just gives you a different kind of an effect there, that's all. And then I can maybe go to this one and go blah, 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 and then on this one, and then hit this one and blah, blah, blah. Let me just get rid of that extra space there. There we go, okay. So that's pretty cool. Good, so now let's look at another aspect of this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to go to slide number 8 here. And again, what I'm going to do, just very quickly, I'm going to type in some lines of text here. So I'm going to pause the video and do this so I'm not wasting a lot of your time, you having to watch this. So abracadabra, and bingo, look at that. Just all of a sudden appears. It's like magic, okay? I wanted to show you one little thing here. We're pretty much at the bottom of our little text box, our little placeholder where the text is being lined up. Remember I told you in the beginning of all this that these different layouts that we have, you know, when we're creating the new slides and we've got all these different layouts, they all have their own way of positioning, you know, the text and positioning everything we've got in here, okay? And that's what we're seeing on this one. Now, what I want to show you here though is that watch what happens when I go to enter a new line, which in essence is probably going to start exceeding this little box here. Okay, so now watch what happens when I hit the enter key and I start typing. Now watch, now notice right now that our font size up here, it says 24, right up here. See that? So that's where we're at right now. Now when I go ahead and I type in my next line, now watch this, I do this, look what happens. It kind of resized it a little bit, all right? Now I hit the enter key again, all right, and type in some more, and now you see it going down. So now it's set for 22, so it redid everything 22. Well, again, you know, this is a good feature, I guess, because it keeps everything all kind of uniform, but at the same time, we're kind of putting a lot of lines of text here, something that we probably don't want to have. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, it's just that everything became smaller, and of course, you know, when people are trying to read this on the screen, having so much in there to begin with, you're going to overwhelm your audience, okay? But let me just show you something here. If you wanted to go back to the original size and still have the same amount of text, what you can do is you got this little smart tag on the side here. It's called the auto fit options. When you click onto that, it basically says it's auto fitting the text to fit the placeholder, to fit that text box. What you can do instead is you can say, hey, I want to stop fitting the text to this placeholder. So if I click onto that, then we get that. Now, does that look any better? I don't know. It still looks overwhelming to me. So I would probably, in this kind of situation, say that I would rather maybe split this into maybe 2 different slides, you know, try to figure out which lines would go best on the next slide or something like that. You know, that's up to you. Or maybe try to condense it down, maybe not have as much in there. Maybe you don't need a few of the lines. You can kind of go from there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just click onto that and tell it to keep on auto fitting. And then what I'll do here is I'm just going to get rid of this line. And I think that's all we got to do. I think we had a 24 originally, I think, right? Yeah, so we already have. But there we go. So that would be what you'd want to have there, and then the rest of the text would go on the next page or next slide there. Now another thing you can do to maybe squeeze maybe an extra line onto your page without it affecting the size, okay, and the positioning and all that, would be maybe to change the spacing that you have between each of your paragraphs or lines here, okay? Now, one way you can do it is I've got this button up here, click onto that thing right there, and it can give you, you know, single spacing, 1.5 spacing, 2 spacing, and so forth, right? But I kind of want to get it a little bit less than what it's giving me up there. I want to get maybe less than 1 line spacing, because right now it's set for about 1 line spacing, okay? So what I can do instead is I can click on to the frame of the text here, okay? Do that. And then what I'll do, and also let me do this as well too. Let me enter there and put in some more text there, all right? And then I'll do one more, and that will then bring it down to 22. So there we go. So there's the problem. So now what we're going to do is we'll select the frame, all right? So I've just clicked anywhere on any of this frame here, all right? Get the whole thing selected. And instead of going into there, this is going to be in the Home tab. I'm going to go here to the paragraph, and we'll go to the dialog box here and click onto that. Now that brings me up this little window here. And as you can see here, it shows the spacing before and after the paragraph. So this is spacing before the paragraph and after the paragraph. And this is the spacing between the lines here. So I probably don't really want to change that. I mean, it's pretty tight here. It's less than spacing of 1, so that's pretty tight to begin with. But the main thing is I'm thinking of maybe reducing the spacing before each one of these lines, each of the paragraphs here, right? Now watch. I'm going to bring this thing down to, let's say, 6. Okay, that's pretty dramatic, okay? But now when I go ahead and hit the OK, see what it does is it goes ahead and it kind of reduces a little bit. Now that brought it down to 6. It brought the spacing down quite a bit. Probably still not enough to do anything here, right? But now on the other hand, if you decide you want more spacing, all right, again, we would go back in there again. And we say, okay, I don't want to be 6 or 12. I want to bring this thing up to maybe 18. Now, if you do 18 and do that, it wants to get bigger, but then that this auto fit option is making it shrink back back down again, right? So what I might have to do is click onto here and tell it to stop fitting. Okay, there we go. And now, as we can see here, it's going off the slide. So now, and that's because we set it for 18. So I'll click on the frame again, make sure I got that selected, go back to here, all right, and I'll bring this down to 12, right? So if I bring it to 12 and hit OK, not too bad, all right? Still, it's kind of tight there, all right? So I might think about maybe getting rid of one of these lines, something like that, all right? And then what we'll do is we'll go back in here into the spacing again. Oh, let me get that. Oh, get that selected first there. Get it selected there, right? Go back to my dialog. All right, and I'll bring this thing not just down to 6, because this is going to bring me down to 6. I want to go somewhere in between that, so I'm going to change this to, let's say, maybe like an 8. Okay, so I just go there and I can just change that to an 8, hit OK, and voila, there we go. So now it's fitting in there, and you know, the audience is probably not going to notice that particular slide being off a little bit compared to the other ones. See, the whole objective is to keep it within this framework. I don't want to make this any taller, you know, because I don't want it to expand anymore. I want it to stay within the confines of each one of these. So these all have the same basic height to them. That's really what I'm trying to achieve here. Now the other thing I can look at doing would be I'll click on the frame again, right? And this time I'll go back in the dialog box and I can actually change the line spacing. Now right now it's set for multiple, and having a multiple of 1 is the same thing as having single line spacing. So we're like 10% less than single line spacing right now. And that is, we're talking about the spacing between each of the lines of a multi-lined paragraph. So basically this is the only one we're working with here. So if I said, well, maybe I'll bring this thing down maybe to a 7, let's say. So 70%, right? So now watch, keep your eyes on this right here. Now hit OK, and you'll see what happens. So that squeezed it up quite a bit. These also squeezed up a little bit because technically there's a little spacing after each one of these as well, right? Because that's a single line. So this is spacing after each line within the paragraph. So this is a single line, has a little bit of spacing in there. That might be a little too drastic there, so I think maybe I'll go back in there, maybe make this go at an 8, so make that 8. Hit OK, perfect. All right, and there we go. If these are real words, it probably would look a little bit better, but I think you get the idea. And the other thing at this point is you might say to yourself, you know what, I'm tired of green, you know? So if I go back into the design, right, and right now I'm set for this one here, I can go here to purple, I can go here to the red, and I think maybe I'll just go with the red, what the heck, right? So we'll do that as our finale there. All right, so that looks good. And one more thing while we're on this subject here, if I originally had it all at green, so there's all green, but I can actually, while I'm on the slide now, just on this one slide, I can point to the red one here, right? I can right, now if I just click it, it's going to make everything red, all the slides. If I do a right click on it, I can tell it to apply it to the selected slides, and the only selected slide is number 8. So I click onto that, and now that's the only one that is going to be red or orange, whatever. Now one more thing with the spacing, let me just show you something here. I can actually focus on just one line. If I go to this paragraph here, let's say, right, and I go back into my home, go back to my dialog box, right, and I change the spacing of before, maybe make this like a 12, watch what happens down here. I hit OK, and it just does that one. So that it pulled that down. So there's more space in between here than the other one. So that's a thought as well. Now, one more thing. I know this has been a long video. I appreciate you watching through it, but it just didn't seem right to chop it up at all. All right, to kind of get this all in one big thing here. So I appreciate your patience here. Now I want to go to the. Well, let's just do this one here. So oh, wrong one. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to show you was changing. You know, I don't even want to do that one. We'll do this one here. Let me just add some more text here. So what I want to show you next is changing the spacing between your bullets. All right. So right now, when you look at what we have here, we got the bullet here, spacing, and then we got a little space, and the paragraph starts here. Now you'll notice that we've got the ruler turned on here. We did that in the beginning of the first video there. We got this ruler here by just going over into View and tell them we want to display the ruler. Okay, once you've done that, it stays pretty much turned on. Now, watch this. Now you'll notice that while we're on this first one here, we've got this here. Okay, that little marker there is marking the position of where the bullet is. The middle one is marking the position of where the paragraph is, and the bottom one moves them both, as you'll see in just a second. So let's just say I want to move the bullet or the paragraph away from the bullet a little bit. So I go to the middle marker here, right? Hold down my mouse, drag it to the right like this, let go, and it pulls it out. Now I'm going to hit undo because you probably would want to do this to all the lines. So what you need to do in this case is we need to kind of select it like this. All right. Now once you've done that, you'll see the marker is still up there. Now when I take that middle mark and drag it to the right, maybe just bring it over here to position 1/2 inch there, let go, they all go over there. And then at the same time, if I want to move the bullet over just a little bit, I can take this and just maybe move it over a notch like that, and that moves the bullet. That's pretty simple. If you take the bottom marker here, and let's say we drag that back, it actually moves them both, see? So I'll just move that back like that, and there we go. So now the bullet's positioned where it was originally, but we moved everything back just a little bit too. So this is going to be a little bit off from what the rest of the slides have. But that's up. All right, give me another minute or two here. Let me just show you another thing here now. Let's say you want to change the bullet that we're using for all of these, right? Now, if you want to change the bullet for all of them, you get them all selected. If you just want to change it for one of them, you just click on the line. So we'll start out first of all with the line, and I'll just start with the first one. Now, if I go back to the Home tab, where I have my bullets. Now, this one, we're using the character bullet right now. If I click on that little drop down, I've got all these other bullets to choose from. I can pick anything here. I can either do it that way, or I can go here to the other type of bullets that we have here, which would be the numbering. I can click onto there, and I can say I want that to be like a number 1 type of bullet. There we go. That's it. It does look a little bit goofy if you're kind of doing something like that, because it kind of pushes everything over, then you got to move everything back, and it just doesn't look the best, right? So you might say, well, maybe what I'll do instead is go back here and maybe pick a different bullet here. And even doing that, you're going to be a little bit off. So chances are, instead of just doing the 1, you probably want to do everything. So I'm just going to hit the undo a couple times there. I'll select this whole thing here, right? Then I'll go back in here, and again, I can change the bullet for all of them like that. I can change it to something like that. Totally up to you. And I really like these, especially I like the numeric ones and the character ones, because I can go to the end of this one here, hit the enter key, put a new one in there, and everything else renumbers itself. That's pretty cool. And the other thing is that when you go to the end of, let's say, this B, hit the enter key, hit the tab key, then you get an A in there, see? So it's doing something like that. Now, you might sit there and say, well, I don't really like that. Maybe what I'll do is while I'm there, I'll go back into my bullets here and change that either to a character type bullet, do something like that, or I can go with the numeric, but I can pick a different character. So maybe I got B, and maybe I'll do a 1 here, something like that, see? And then what I'll do is to get this changed up a little bit, I can just kind of move this while I'm on that line, move this middle one over a little bit, get a little bit closer like that, get something that looks good. And then while I'm still there, I can hit the enter key, get number 2, and it'll maintain that positioning. See? Hit number 3, same thing. Oop, same thing on that one as well. All right? So pretty cool stuff there. All right? But very easy to do by doing that. So again, I really appreciate you sitting there for about 45 minutes watching this, but hopefully you got a lot out of this. And we got more to come here. We got plenty of videos for you guys to watch. This is a very powerful program, and a lot of people underestimate it because a lot of people don't understand all of the tools that we have to work with. And you're going to learn all the tools as you go through these videos. So I appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.